Welcome, good morning. We're here in Washington, D.C., ancestral land of the Piscataway Indians and the Anacostan Indians. And we're here because we have an incredible opportunity to end fossil fuel subsidies. There's a conversation going on around the country right now on infrastructure, on budget reconciliation. We have a president that supports ending fossil fuel subsidies. We have a progressive caucus inside the U.S. Congress that is pushing to end fossil fuel subsidies. And guess what? We have a bunch of people out in the streets demanding what? That we need to end fossil fuel subsidies. And so we're out here today with different groups. Shout out to Greenpeace USA, Sunrise Movement, Oil Change International, Oxfam America, Sierra Club, the Indigenous Environmental Network, and anybody that I forgot, it's just because I'm running out of space. My brain's not working. But everybody, this is going to take all of us in order to make it happen. Fossil fuel companies have been getting billions of dollars in subsidies from the federal government for over 100 years now. They don't need it anymore. They're plenty profitable. We don't need our taxpayer dollars going to companies that are poisoning our land, making our kids sick, and destroying the planet. And so you don't need to hear it from me. Let's hear it from some of the frontline communities that are really actually going through terrible climate crisis. I'm going to bring up Siknik Maupin. She is from the Sovereign Inupiat for a Living Arctic. Come on up, Siknik. So Siknik, tell us a little bit about what's happening in your neck of the woods, right? You're in Alaska.
Yes. My name is Siknik. I'm Inupiat from Alaska. And right now we are going through, we need 12 immediate relocations, 12 villages that are going to be washing into the ocean right now. This isn't talking about the so many other villages in Alaska that within 10 years will also be under the ocean. We will be refugees in our own lands. And this is going to impact the indigenous, the BIPOC communities first, and we are seeing that right now, and we are demanding that Biden stop making us a sacrifice zone.
Right. That's right. So this is all happening up in the north, and you guys are here in DC now. Why are you guys here?
We're here to send a message that we're not going to be quiet. Right now, Biden is playing a game of looking good, but we need his words to match his actions. He stopped the lease sales initially for the Arctic Refuge, but they are mandatory to have new lease sales. We need permanent protection now. And while this is happening, we also have the Master Willow Project, a massive oil project with over 300 miles of pipelines that'll be laid. We will have a second gravel pit mine less than 10 miles away from my village. We already have a gravel pit mine that blows and shakes the houses every single night, but we're forgotten about. Nuxet, the Arctic Slope, Inupiat communities and rural communities are being forgotten, and while the media is distracted, we are being sacrificed, and we will not be sacrificed any longer.
Hey Joe! Fossil fuels have got to go! 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 Hey Joe!
So we heard from Siknik, right? She's up in the Arctic. What's going on there? Now we're going from the north to the south, right? I'm going to bring out Juan Mancias. He's the chairman of the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe fighting a liquid natural gas project in Texas, in the Brownsville area. Juan, come on up. Juan, I'm so glad you're here. Tell us, we heard what's going on in the north and the Arctic Circle. What's happening down south in Brownsville?
Well, that other microphone, there you go.
Well, what we're doing is that we got several fronts going on in over in Texas. First, the Odessa Permian deposits that have been discovered down there that's really putting out some real dirty fracked oil. And they're trying to clear that fracked oil to be able to pump it into some of the LNGs that they're proposing now. They're proposing 7 of them, 2 of them out on the Gulf Coast. So what I always try to tell people is that we need to stop thinking about the segmentation of states, the segmentation of counties or parishes or whatever, and start looking, and even international boundaries, because we have people on both sides of our river. And I think that we need to be aware of how it's going to be affecting our water, especially the Rio Grande and all the other rivers in the area. The Ogallala Aquifer also runs up in the northern plains of Texas. Excuse me. But I just want to be able to say these things because I think that we need to understand that we are 70% water, you know, and when we cross over, that water doesn't go out into space, it stays here. That water becomes part of the rain, becomes a part of the water that you're drinking. So you're actually drinking our ancestors. You're actually bathing in our ancestors. And we have to understand that those connections are important to us. And just as much as the land is, and that land is sacred to us because our ancestors are there. One of my great-great-grandfathers said that when they were trying to build a railroad through one of the sites, massacre sites, he told them, I said, now you're going to kill my people again. And every time they dig up our people, they're killing us again. They're killing each one of us, especially if we don't stand up to that. And with these pipelines going through our sacred sites, we've had 216 pipelines since 2016 put in Texas. And that's not even been updated yet. And 129 of them have been LNGs, and 87 of them crude oil. And they're all trying to get to one place, and that's into Galveston, into Houston, anywhere in the Gulf Coast. They're proposing the Moda LNG down in Corpus Christi, which is a sacred site to us. And they're even proposing an LNG on top of Garcia Pasture. And Garcia Pasture is a natural, federally registered site. And it shows that there are 25 of our villages there. And then, of course, right next to it will be the Rio Grande. I do want you to know that we were together with some of the people in the community of the Brownsville, Texas area, were able to shut down the ANOVA. And if you know any Spanish, that means ANOVA. So that means that it's not going to go anywhere. So it's dead on the ground.
I appreciate it. So you heard it from Juan. He said, "Ahí no va." We're not going to put a pipeline there. We need to make sure we're taking care of the land that, as Juan mentioned, right, provides water, provides food. So I'm going to bring up now Daniel Moulet. Daniel is a policy lead for extractive industries and tax transparency for Oxfam America. Daniel, how are you doing today? Tell us a little bit about what kind of tax subsidies these companies are getting.
Well, Paco, first off, it's a pleasure to speak after these other two speakers here today. Great to hear these strong voices reminding us that fossil fuel development is an indigenous rights issue. And fossil fuel subsidies are a big part of that too. And an indigenous rights issue, also a racial justice issue, and also a fiscal issue. We give $15 to $20 billion a year in tax subsidies to the fossil fuel sector. $15 to $20 billion a year that could be reinvested in our communities, reinvested in the communities impacted by fossil fuels, and reinvested to build a carbon-free energy transition that helps us to build back not only better, but build back fossil-free.
So what are the possibilities now, right? We have a president that's talking the talk, right? We haven't seen the walk yet, but he's talking the talk about ending fossil fuel subsidies. We have some proposals in Congress. We have support in the House. We need to get more support in the Senate. What's the state of play?
So great question. Right now, we're on the cusp. For the first time, in a long time, we have an opportunity to end these fossil fuel subsidies, end these corporate giveaways right now. This Congress, the time is now. So we do have a lot of proposals going on. President Biden has been in support of getting rid of $121 billion in subsidies to the fossil fuel sector, which is great to see. Americans are in support of getting rid of fossil fuel subsidies right now, which is great. And now we need Congress to act. And fortunately today we've got some really great leaders in Congress who are fighting to end polluter welfare right now.
Great. Thank you, Daniel, so much. Really appreciate it. You spoke of some of those champions that we have in Congress, and let me bring up Joseph Givargis, the executive director of Our Revolution, to introduce one of those champions for us. Joseph.
Woo! Good morning, brothers and sisters. Good morning, brothers and sisters. We are here for an important reason.
climate change is an existential threat. We have wildfires and extreme heat in the West. We have flash floods in the Midwest. We are on track to have the most dangerous hurricane season ever on the East. Brothers and sisters, our shared experience illustrates that the science is sound and that we need to keep it in the ground. Say it with me. The science is sound.
Keep it in the ground.
The science is sound.
Keep it in the ground.
The science is sound.
Keep it in the ground.
And here's the thing. We, the people, have power in this situation. We, the people, as citizens and as taxpayers, have given a green light to lawmakers, to the White House, and said, you know what, it's okay to subsidize the extraction of dirty fossil fuels that are destroying our climate and leading to the catastrophe that we are living in this moment. And that's why we're here. We're here to send a message to all of our elected officials, whether Democrat or Republican. You cannot spend our taxpayer dollars on fossil fuel extraction. The time is now to stop sending our money to corporations that are exploiting the earth and destroying our future. And that is why we are here, right? This dinosaur should not be extracting money from the U.S. Capitol, right? That source of funding must stop. And look, at the end of the day, this act could be transformational. If the U.S. government sends a signal, right, to the fossil fuel industry and says, we're no longer going to invest and subsidize extraction, imagine what that could set off. Colleges would withdraw funding. Other institutions would stop investing in those corporations. Look, we have a moment, but we need our government to lead. That being said, we have champions. And we have champions like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who is Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And she is the lead sponsor of the End Polluter Welfare Act. With her leadership, we are going to stop investing our taxpayer dollars in the extraction of fossil fuels. Give it up for Representative Ilhan Omar.
What was it? The science is sound?
Keep it in the ground. The science is sound. Keep it in the ground.
I love that. Thank you all for being here. It is really exciting to be able to join you all. I am here today because, like many of you, I know the climate change is an existential threat to humanity. I am here, like many of you, because I don't want my children and the future generation to bear the brunt of climate change. I am here because we cannot continue to provide millions of dollars of tax giveaways to the fossil fuel industry. We know that progress is won by pushing back against those that try to prevent it. For far too long, lawmakers have propped up an industry responsible for nearly a third of the excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere today, making the U.S. more liable for climate change than any other country. We have already seen the horrifying repercussions of failing to act. Wildfires raging in the West Coast, extreme hurricanes, heat waves in Australia, and massive flooding around the world. Natural disasters like this will only get worse if we do not act. We need to take a bold action in order to have a planet where future generations can thrive, and start with putting an end to bankrolling the fossil fuel industry with tax breaks and low interest loans, holding polluters accountable.
That's right.
In order to create a more equitable future for all, we need to move the Green New Deal from a moral vision to concrete legislation.
That's right.
One key component is ending direct federal subsidies to the fossil fuel industry, including billions of dollars to overseas fossil fuel projects. Right now, American taxpayers currently foot the bill for $15 billion in direct federal subsidies each year. Instead of fighting for a greener, more equitable future for all of us, we are making the fossil fuel industry more profitable. Our priorities are severely misplaced. As millions struggle to make ends meet and survive, we are giving uber-wealthy polluters more money to damage our planet. This is unconscionable. To eliminate these giveaways to polluters, I am honored to yet again introduce the End Polluter Welfare Act with Senator Bernie Sanders. This comprehensive bill will eliminate subsidies to fossil fuel companies by ending tax breaks, eliminating special financing, updating below market royalty rates for oil and gas production on federal lands, and prohibiting taxpayer-funded fossil fuel research and development, just to name a few of the provisions in our bill. In addition to ending domestic polluter welfare, this bill will end federal support for international oil, gas, and coal projects, saving taxpayers $15 billion overall per year. It is past time, way past time. We orient our national priorities and end the welfare system for the fossil fuel companies. Putting an end to these giveaways allows us to invest these resources back to the American people. Our country continues to respond to COVID-19 and the impact this disease is having on our workforce, healthcare system, and families across the country. It is irresponsible for us to give away billions of dollars to a well-established and highly profitable polluter.
That's right.
Now is our chance to prioritize the needs of American people over fossil fuel companies. We have a fiscal and moral responsibility to stop forcing working American families to subsidize the profits of an industry that is destroying their homes and their health. Now is our chance to act before it is too late. And with that, I would like to introduce a fellow Minnesotan, Taisha Martineau. Taisha is an indigenous Ojibwe activist and founder of Camp McGizzy and part of the Indigenous Environmental Network. I am incredibly grateful for her work and excited to hear from her. Thank you all. Would you?
Tabiki Giza Skijikwe, Nandishnakas, Nagachi Wanang, Indunjaba, Magazi, and Dodam. My name's Tasia Martineau. I just want to say that the boarding school era where our children are seen and not heard is over. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce my nephew Silas.
Bonjour everybody. My name is Silas Thielen. I am 13 years old, and I am fighting the Line 3 pipeline, which is a so-called replacement pipeline, but if you really look, it's a whole new route, and it's going around 200 bodies of water right by our wild rice beds. As Anishinaabe, wild rice is who we are, and this pipeline is 13 miles away. And as our indigenous women and our elders are being being harassed and arrested by law enforcement, and while that's happening, all these politicians and government officials are hiding behind a bush while this all happens. So we are here to make a stand and tell them we gotta kill this black snake. Miigwech.
Also from Camp McGeezy, I want to introduce Alex Goldenwolf.
Bonjour, I'm Alex Goldenwolf. I come from Camp McGeezy. I've been living there for a couple of months now, actually. I'm very proud to call it my home. I've been fighting this line for about 2 years now, actually. And in the process of doing so, I've been reconnecting with my indigenous roots. Ever since I was a kid, I was taken away from my indigenous family and adopted without my will. And right now I'm reconnecting. And being with Tasia and being with Camp McGeezy has changed my life for good. It's been a beautiful process and a beautiful journey. I'm proud to help stop Line 3. And in doing so, I put my body on the line a couple months ago and went into a trench over at Fond du Lac, and because Fond du Lac is part of the MCT, and they approved Line 3, and because I'm from another reservation, they actually are doing something wrong against myself and the rest of the MCT crew. So I put my body online for a really good reason, and another reason why I did it is because of Tasia. I told them that I'll do anything for you. I'll even put my body on the line. And then the next day she's like, so, do you want to do it? I was like, yeah, I'm down. So I just ran into that trench, and here I am. Changed my life for good.
Also a prominent speaker from Camp McGeezy, I'm proud to introduce my sister Jake Spotted Wolf from Seattle, Washington.
Bonjour, and thank you for hosting us today. Jake Spotted Wolf. I am from the Three Affiliated Nations out of North Dakota. That's Sanish, Mandan, and Hidatsu. I do have an address in Seattle where there are record-setting temperatures right now. We're hitting about 115 degrees, which has never happened in the Pacific Northwest. That is a reaction to climate change. I have been living at Camp McGeezy since May. I stood with Treaty Rights Camp up at Firelight for 8 days, trying to take that stand, because what this fight is about, it's on the bodies of Black and brown people. And I need Joe Biden to understand that. Yeah. This president went out of his way to run on climate and to try to bring Black and brown people into his campaign and say that he was going to protect us and stand up for us. If he's going to do that, he needs to realize that he's going to be breaking more treaties. Another president who's going to break another treaty to try to get resource extraction, which is, again, another form of genocide for profit. Man camps on the pipelines where Native women and children go missing at unprecedented rates will pop up all along Line 3, Line 4, and Line 5. 22% of that population will go missing and sex trafficked. It's not just about profit for Indigenous peoples. It's about our lives, it's about our cultures, our traditions, and how much more those will be exploited for profit. Enbridge is a Canadian company. That those jobs might go to Americans, but in the end, Canadians will profit from that. And we will suffer further because of resource extraction. So I need Joe, if he was very serious about running for Black and brown people, if he was very serious about ending climate change, to realize exactly what the cost is to Black and brown people that are going to continue to die. The DNA Nation, where mining took place and the water was poisoned to the point where they cannot drink it any further, has extremely high rates of cancer. They have to travel an hour to go get their water because they can't drink it in their homes because it's filthy. It's poisoned with uranium from the mining. This isn't any different. These pipelines are going to burst because everyone has. Every single pipeline has burst and poisoned the water. Why would we expect anything different? They don't have the technology. If they do have the technology, they're not applying it. So these pipelines are going to damage water table, they're going to damage communities, and it will come at the cost of Indigenous people. So I want Joe to be very serious about that when he considers signing backroom deals with people who say that this is good for economy. It might be good for settler economy and for colonizers. It is not good for the American people or for the Indigenous that only make up 1% of this population. We're dying at unprecedented rates because of resource extraction and all of the elements that it has brought with it. So please take this back to your communities and tell them what's at risk for us and make it stop.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go!
Hey, hey! Water is life!
Protect the wild rice!
Water is life!
Water is life! Water is life!
Water is life!
Buju, Tabiki Giza, Skijikwe, Nindishnakas, Nagachiwanang, Indunjiba, Migazi, and Dodam. My name is Tasia Martineau. I'm 28 years old. I'm one of the co-founders of Camp Migazi, which is a resistance camp in northern Minnesota. We're currently fighting the Enbridge Line 3 pipeline and preparing to stop the Enbridge Line 4. In December, when they started digging, the Enbridge Corporation desecrated a spot that was sacred to me. It was an area that we had been calling Grandma's Table. You know, as Indigenous people, no one has the right to tell us what is sacred to us. No one has the right to deny us our prayers. And in that spot where I sat in ribbon skirts and braids, where I learned to speak my name so that my ancestors could know me in a language they took from the tongue of my grandmother, Enbridge started digging. They took the body, the desecrated body of the Rock Nation, and they placed it upon that spot where my children sat, dancing around a fire that Jim Northrup taught me how to light, so that when I travel home, I can do so safely. For at the beginning, I was angry. I was someone who'd scream down a line of riot police with no fear because of how much anger I held in my heart. As Indigenous people, we're tired. We're tired of the ongoing destruction of our sacred spaces. We're tired of the ongoing oppression and genocide of our people. We're tired of hearing about more children's bodies being found at the residential schools. We're tired. We're tired of being strong. We're tired of being told how resilient you are. We want a moment to be weak. We need vulnerability. We need to heal. And we can't do that when these pipelines are being buried right alongside Indigenous people. When projects such as the Dakota Access Pipeline, Line 3, Line 4, and Line 5 are built, there's an increase of violence towards Indigenous women. As an Indigenous woman, I know what it's like to live with a target on my back. I know the statistics of MMIW, that ongoing epidemic where our women are being missing and murdered at higher rates than any other demographic. I know that statistic because I live it, because at home I have 3 beautiful Indigenous daughters and 1 strong son. That statistic I was taught growing up is 1 in 3. So I want the Biden administration to take a moment and look at my children. And you tell me which one. That's a valid fear that Indigenous women face all across Turtle Island. There are mothers at home who don't sleep, sitting by the phone, waiting for a call that their loved one's been found. There's a grandfather out there whose last words he heard from his grandson were, "I love you, Grandpa." and he fears he'll never hear those words again. The ongoing epidemic of MIW ties in with these corporations that exasperate the issue, and they don't care. They don't care because they have the money and they make the rules. So much so that Indigenous people have had to forcibly put their bodies on the line to stop these projects. In northern Minnesota, we've been climbing into trenches. We've been standing in front of high-powered machinery. We've been locking down because we don't have that choice. We don't have time to wait. They are coming for our rivers. They are coming for our children. They are coming for our sacred spaces. I didn't come here to simp for the Biden administration. I came here to speak to you, the people. Because in northern Minnesota right now, my sister at Camp Nemewag is being kettled by police, held there against their will, unable to come, unable to go. They're not even allowing food or water in. Nemewag needs your help. If you have the ability, please take the time to check in with the GNU Collective on social media. They need people on the ground now. The human rights violation that this corporation has caused all across Minnesota is unprecedented. It's terrifying. In northern Minnesota, we are living in a war zone. And these fights aren't new to us as Indigenous people. The first people who are going to feel the repercussions of this pipeline if we allow them to build it is our relatives to the global south, who are already facing their own genocides at camps similar to the concentration camps, similar to the residential schools that Indigenous people have been forced into for generations. So I don't hold any hope that Biden's going to come here to save me. So I'm calling out to you. Wherever you are, you can make a difference. You can help support us. You can help uplift, protect, and empower us. The front line is everywhere. I call for the divestment of Chase Bank and Wells Fargo. I call upon those activists sitting at home to do something where you're at. Uplift and empower those who are being oppressed. Get your boots on and get to the nearest front line near you. We need you now. Miigwech.
Thank you, Taisha, and thank you to all the other speakers. I want to introduce now Representative Nanette Diaz-Barragan from California's 44th Congressional District and a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee. Representative Barragan.
Good morning. Water is life. Water is life. Water is life.
Water is life.
Are you ready to build back without fossil fuels?
Yes.
I'm ready because we cannot wait. Our children cannot wait and our planet cannot wait. I saw a sign in the back over there that asked, what kind of planet do we want to leave our children? You don't have to look very far to see the damage that's being caused by fossil fuels today. Whether it's record heat, whether it's droughts or wildfires in California. Fossil fuel is killing us and it's killing our planet. But that's not all. Fossil fuel is literally killing our communities. The public health impact that it's causing, the asthmas, the cancers, the respiratory illnesses, and these are right in our very communities. I think about my own congressional district in Southern California, which is right next to 3 freeways, the Port of Los Angeles, and oil drilling right in people's backyards. This is wrong. Are we ready to stop that?
Yes!
I am too. And that's why we have to make sure we put an end to the fossil fuel subsidies. The time is now. When is it?
Now!
When is it?
Now!
Exactly. And that's why I'm proud to join Representative Omar in her bill to end the fossil fuel subsidy. You know, thank you. Yes, what are we going to do? End the fossil fuel subsidy. And when are we going to do it? Now! That's right. We need to invest those dollars in renewable energies and clean energies and make sure we're investing that money into the community. When people ask how you're going to pay for it, we're going to tell them we're going to end the fossil fuel subsidy. And so I'm proud to stand with you in doing that and fighting for that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for fighting. And thank you for not letting up. We can do this together. Thank you very much.
Keep it in the soil. No coal, no oil. Keep it in the soil. No coal, no oil. Keep it in the soil.
All right, thank you very much, Congresswoman Barragan. Our next speaker comes from the part of a country right now that is going through an unprecedented heat wave caused in large part by fossil fuel subsidies. By fossil fuel subsidies and climate change that is exacerbated by those subsidies. And so let me bring up Representative Earl Blumenauer from Oregon's 3rd Congressional District and also a member of the Ways and Means Committee. Representative Blumenauer.
I do bring you greetings from the Pacific Northwest, where we have watched 3 days of unprecedented heat, 115, 114 degrees, unlike anything we've ever seen. And this is only June. There's no better time for us to focus on simple, effective steps to help halt climate change. And something that I've been working on for years is to stop the insane subsidization of what had until recently been the most profitable industry on the planet, the oil and gas. What we have seen, the tax breaks that they've received give them upwards of $20 billion a year extra benefit at a time when we should be taking that money, not giving it to fossil fuel industry, and instead investing it in a clean energy future.
Yes.
That's part of what we will be discussing today with a green infrastructure proposal from my friend and colleague, Peter DeFazio. Opportunities for us to change the equation for the #1 source of fossil fuel emissions, transportation, aided and abetted by the subsidies that we give to big oil and gas. I've introduced this legislation and fought for it for years, but now we have an opportunity to get this across the finish line.
Yes, we do.
We have control of the House and Senate, leadership that is committed to helping us solve this problem. We have a White House that has included this in their budget proposals and will help us fight for it. And we have an awareness on the part of the public of how critical this is. On a daily basis, there are reminders of how serious the situation has become. And what we're seeing in the Pacific Northwest is just a preview of coming attractions. Last summer, Portland had the worst air quality in the world because of these out-of-control wildfires and forest fires. And we're setting up for a repeat with the extreme heat and drought. But we can do something about it now. Let's stop the unnecessary subsidization of fossil fuel. Let's redirect it to our green, clean energy future and continue to spread the word to the public about the critical elements we have and the opportunity to make progress. Thank you for being here, for adding your voice, making the point to the American public. We are on, I think, an unprecedented opportunity to get this across the finish line. I look forward to working with you to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Blumenauer. It is now my pleasure to bring up Ebony Martin. She is the Chief Operating Officer at Greenpeace USA. So Ebony, come on up.
Yeah, Ebony.
Good morning. Good morning. How are y'all doing out there today? I'm so glad and so encouraged to be with so many climate leaders. This is the time. So listen. $15 billion. $15 billion. This is what our government hands over to fossil fuel companies in the industry every year. $15 billion. The same industry that knows that fossil fuels cause climate crisis. The same industry that knows that people will suffer and Black and brown people will be more disproportionately impacted. Yes. The same industry that knows that our planet would be devastated by the production and the extraction of fossil fuels. The same industry that knows but actually hides from us the science. The same industry that lies to us, that blocks solutions for clean and renewable industry. The same industry linked to 8.5 million deaths globally in 2018 alone. That means 1 in 5 premature deaths is due to fossil fuel burning. This is the same industry. And for what? For what? To poison our kids, to poison our families, to poison our future, to poison our planet. No, not on our watch. Not on our watch. Tap your neighbor and tell them not on our watch. Tap your other neighbor, tell them not on our watch. No, it stops today. Right now, they're discussing it. Biden has already called for the elimination. We have a couple of champions in Congress that already know. So this is the time that we stop the free toxic handouts, okay? Not on our watch. So what I need you to do is take out your phone. I'm going to give you a number. I want you to call it 833-492-5942. 833-492-5942. I want you to get patched through to your Congress representative and you tell them not on our watch. I want you to tell them that the $15 billion in health care, well, $15 billion in subsidies should actually go back to our health care system to give more people access. I want you to tell them $15 billion should go into our educational system to prepare our kids for the future. I want you to tell them $15 billion should be put back into, invested in clean, renewable energy sources that create an economy, a more resilient, a more just, a more equitable economy. We are fighting for a world far beyond fossil fuels. And everyday people's lives, their health, their families will come first. The time is now for Biden to change. The time is now for us to shift and call for an elimination of fossil fuel subsidies. So I want you to get on the phone. I want you to call all day, every day. Get on their nerves. Let them know they work for us. No more fossil fuel subsidies. Not on our watch.
Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go!
So thank you, Ebony. That was powerful. She mentioned the 800 number. For those watching online, there's also a link being dropped into the chat. It's rrev.us/end-subsidies. Click on that link and you will be connected to the same number that Ebony was mentioning. So it's my pleasure now to bring up our next speaker, Jim Walsh, Senior Energy Policy Analyst with Food and Water Watch. Jim, come on up.
Thank you very much, Paco. Thank you, Our Revolution, for pulling this together. Thank you, Representative Omar, Representative Barragan, Representative Khanna, and Representative Blumenauer, who are all coming today to speak out against fossil fuels. It makes me happy to be here today with all of you and all of you people who are online watching this. People who want to end the scourge of fossil fuels as much as I do. People who are sick and tired of the problems that the fossil fuel industry is creating for our communities. Now, it makes me happy to be here with you, and it makes me happy to be here with these leaders. But the people in that building behind me, those people are not thinking about what makes me happy all the time. They might be thinking about what makes us happy. And I want us to let them know what's going to make us happy. Would it make you happy to see an end to fossil fuel subsidies? Yes! Would it make you happy to see an infrastructure deal that rebuilds our communities with clean, renewable energy and stops putting resources into crap solutions like carbon capture and storage and a hydrogen economy and nuclear, would that make you happy to put an end to those? Yes! Would it make you happy to see an end to attacks on indigenous communities and water protectors that are stopping pipelines in this country and standing up for clean water and clean air? Would that make you happy? Yes! Would it make you happy to see an end to extreme weather events like we're seeing in Portland right now, and the wildfires in the West, and the hurricanes and tropical storms that are going to hit the Gulf Coast this summer? Are these things that are going to make you happy? Yes! Would it make you happy to see federal resources going to farmers to support them instead of setting up these false solution carbon trading programs where fossil fuel companies can buy offsets from these farmers, as though that reduces any of the evils that this industry has caused? Would you like to see an end to those sorts of things? Yes! Would you like to see an end to single-use plastics and the fossil fuels industries rush to build more infrastructure to support plastics and refineries that are poisoning communities? Do you want to see an end to that? Yes! Do you want to see an end to fossil fuel exports and an opening up of a manufacturing base in the United States for solar and wind power that can build and connect the world to clean renewable energy while creating good jobs here in the United States? Do you want to see that? Yes! Do you want to see pipe fitters put to work rebuilding our water infrastructure, replacing lead service lines? To see carpenters supporting weatherization programs in housing? To see electricians connecting homes across the country to clean renewable energy? Do you want to see that? Yes! I want to see it too. Now, right now, there are some people who wake up in the morning thinking about how they can make us happy. But we are not going to end fossil fuel subsidies unless no one who works in that building can sleep. They can't sleep because they are hearing our phone calls, people marching in the street, and people standing up to demand that we build back better and that we build back fossil-free. Build back fossil-free. Build back fossil-free. Build back fossil-free.
Thank you very much, Jim. It is now my pleasure to bring up Sujatha Bergen. She's the Director of Health Campaigns at the Health and Food Division of the Natural Resources Defense Council, and she's got a special letter that I'm going to help her out with. So come on up, Sujatha.
Thank you, Paco, and thank you everyone who's come out today, even though it's crazy hot. And I'm not going to talk about why we need to eliminate fossil fuel subsidies. I think we've talked about that a bunch. I'm not going to talk about the impacts of fossil fuels on the ground because we've had incredible people come and speak to the impact that this outdated, destructive technology has had on their lives. But what I do want to talk about is that joining us today are more than 500 organizations from around the country who are with us in our call to end these fossil fuel subsidies once and for all. Those organizations range from environmental groups who are based here in DC or who are based in communities around the country. They range from huge public health organizations like the American Public Health Association to faith groups. I saw lots of Sisters of Charity on the list and local congregations. It's a really incredible group of people who are uniting to get this issue to the finish line once and for all. So that's what I wanted to say. We're delivering this letter today to Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi, and we're going to be sending them also footage and film from this rally to make the point that any further delay in making this common sense policy happen is totally unacceptable.
Thank you, Sujatha. You heard it from her. We've got over 500 organizations sending this letter to Schumer and to Pelosi calling on an end for fossil fuel subsidies. And so speaking of fossil fuel subsidies and stuff going on in Congress. I want to now bring up Representative Ro Khanna. He's the chair of the Oversight Environmental Subcommittee and the deputy whip of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And about a month and a half ago, he held one of the first hearings this Congress on ending fossil fuel subsidies, and he really put the pin on the American Petroleum Institute executive that was there, and basically got him to admit that the fossil fuel industry doesn't need subsidies, different than any other business, right? They get $15 billion a year. They've been getting them for hundreds of years, and you know, that needs to end, right? So it's my pleasure to bring up Representative Ro Khanna.
Thank you. What a great turnout. What a great, give yourself a round of applause. This is the kind of energy we need. And I love that we've been mobilizing today and yesterday. You know, Evan and Sunrise were out, and then we had the DNC Climate Council all pushing for the same goal. We need to end fossil fuel subsidies, zero it out of our tax code. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. If you look at the facts, I mean, let's just talk about basic facts. In a standard depreciation, because we have to get into some of the details here. In a standard depreciation, most companies, they get 7 years. You know, you have equipment, you buy equipment, it takes 7 years of depreciation. But if you want to drill oil in this country, if you want to make new wells, you get to depreciate everything up front in 1 year. We're incentivizing, we're subsidizing new drilling, new oil. Instead of subsidizing and incentivizing renewable energy, our government, our tax code, is incentivizing the exact opposite.
That ain't right.
I mean, when you're talking about no fossil fuel subsidies, we're not even talking about a Green New Deal or renewable energy. We're just talking about neutrality. Neutrality. Can we not have the government on the wrong side?
That's right. That's right.
I mean, we need the government on the right side, but right now the government is on the wrong side. I don't understand how this is a debate. I don't understand how in 2021 we have a tax code that is actually incentivizing new fossil fuel drilling, how we have a tax code that is privileging corporate executives and fossil fuel companies. Well, we need exactly the opposite, and this is going to be a fight. This is going to be a fight, but as Greta Thunberg said, if we can't do this, it is a punch to the gut of the environmental movement all across the world. How can you tell young kids around who are marching, who are getting arrested, who are putting their lives on the line, that we're serious about climate change when we are having a tax code pass that actually incentivizes the fossil fuel companies? Folks are smarter these days. They see beyond the rhetoric. You can't just say I'm for climate legislation and not look under the hood and not look at the details. Let's be very clear on a few things. No climate, no deal. We're not going to pass.
No climate, no deal. No climate, no deal. No climate, no deal.
I don't care what the statements are. They say, Ro, what do you think of what the president's saying, the speaker's saying? I'll tell you what I care about. The votes aren't there. The votes aren't there. They're not. You bring a bill that doesn't have climate, it's not going to pass. The progressives are not going to vote for it. It won't pass the House of Representatives. The second thing is that the reconciliation bill has to have the end of fossil fuel subsidies. It needs a lot more. It needs a clean energy standard. It needs investment in renewables and solar and wind, and it needs clean electric vehicles and charging. It needs a lot more. But as a baseline, every group, raise your hand if you're part of an environmental group that believes that we need no fossil fuel subsidies. It's a consensus. It's a consensus. That's what the environmental movement's demanding. That's what we're going to fight for. Please, we need you. We need you more than you think you need me. We need the outside groups, active, insisting, unified, with one voice, that the reconciliation bill that passes the Senate, the reconciliation bill that passes the House, has to end fossil fuel subsidies. Let's do this. As Colin says, let's make history and figure out how we get rid of these tax incentives that have plagued our tax code for 100 years. We have it in our power. Let's get it done. Thank you.
No climate!
No deal!
No climate!
No deal!
No climate!
No deal!
Thank you very much, Representative Khanna. You heard it from him. We need inside work, we need outside work, and we're the outside. So if you're watching online, go to rrev.us/end subsidies, and you'll get connected to your member of Congress. Let them know that we need to end fossil fuel subsidies now. And so, speaking of that, let me bring up Colin Reese. He's a senior campaigner with Oil Change International. Colin's going to tell us a little bit about what they're doing, the part that they're playing in ending fossil fuel subsidies. Colin.
Yeah, Colin.
It is so good to see all of you out here today. I really want to thank you for doing this, and thank you so much, Paco. Thank you to the incredible members of Congress who've spoken, Rep. Khanna, who laid the case out so clearly just before me, Reps. Blumenauer, Omar, Barragan. The time is now. This is our chance to end subsidies. This is something that we as a global climate movement have been fighting for well over a decade. I'd say more over 2 decades. In 2009, early in Barack Obama's presidency, at the G20 summit in Pittsburgh, the G20 agreed to phase out fossil fuel subsidies, phase out harmful and inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. That's all of them, by the way. Since then, we've seen very little progress. Obviously, we had the Trump era, we had a lot of other things going on. This is our key moment. We have control of Congress. There's a lot of momentum to end fossil fuel subsidies thanks to you, but our representatives need to hear it. And I want to tell you just a little bit about why. I think it's critical to end these fossil fuel subsidies
of youth, progressive faith, indigenous, rural. And these kinds of issues, as we know, are happening all over the country. Our long neglected infrastructure desperately needs investment to become hardened, to be strengthened for what's coming and for the scale and scope of this crisis. And we also just need to stop extracting the fuel from the ground and burning it. So let's subsidize. Let's subsidize that green, sustainable future with the great union jobs that we can create by building for renewable energy. So President Biden agrees. Last year he said, I want to get this quote right, "I don't think big oil companies need a handout from the federal government. We are going to get rid of fossil fuel subsidies and invest in clean energy. But we know the oil company lobbyists whose offices line K Street are going to have a big loud voice made louder with big loud money. So we've got less than 10 years left. It's not the time to be timid. Is it the time to be timid? No! Is it the time to take half measures? No! Absolutely not. We need bold action. We need comprehensive action. So I'm super grateful to our revolution for holding this rally. We need to speak for those who can't speak, the people in the future generations, because I bet they're going to have some thoughts about us if we don't do everything that we can to make this right and to counter the climate crisis. So thank you so much, and let's go win this.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. That was awesome. So now it's my pleasure to bring up one of the organizations we've been talking about this since we got involved at the very beginning, Friends of the Earth. I want to bring up Lucas Ross. He's a program manager and works on greening the federal budget and ending subsidies for polluting industries. That sounds right up our alley, right? That's exactly what we're doing here today. So, Lucas, come on up.
Thanks, Bucko. So, I gotta tell everyone right up front that I hate talking in public. But I hate fossil fuel subsidies even more. I can't believe we still have to even talk about this. I'll say that again. I can't believe we still have to talk about this. Fossil fuel subsidies have been the law of the land for over 100 years. For nearly as long as we have had a fossil fuel industry, we have had fossil fuel bosses gaming the system. Gaming the system with giveaway loans. Gaming the system with giveaways from our public lands. Giveaways for free public research and development, and giveaways
This has been so exciting and so inspiring. I think that when we think about local fights about this, and we think about what's happening here, and we think about the chance to end subsidies, I think about what I always say about the other pipeline. We've heard some incredible speakers today about how the fossil fuel industry is destroying communities, harming people of color, destroying our natural landscape, and exacerbating climate change. But let's not forget, there's a pipeline on the other side that makes all that possible, and I call it the money pipeline, right? The fossil fuels flow out, but the money is flowing in all the time. And it's that money pipeline that makes the other pipelines work.
That's right.
And every time a bank like Chase Bank funds Line 3 in Minnesota, and you heard the speakers, that makes that pipeline possible. Every time a public pension fund like our own public pension fund in Maryland buys Enbridge because they tell us that making money is the #1 goal, bar everything else, that makes Enbridge stock valuable, and that makes Enbridge able to drill and do Line 3. So every time we see an oil pipeline, every time we see a natural gas pipeline, we see the money pipeline on the other side feeding it in, and we just stop that money pipeline. And of all the sources of that money pipeline, maybe the most shameful one is this one right behind us, right here.
That's right.
Our own federal government spending its money and giving its tax breaks to the companies that don't even need it in the first place to feed that money pipeline. And that's got to stop, because it's not okay to make money on the backs of BIPOC and indigenous communities. It's not okay to make money on the back of the climate. It's not okay to feed that money pipeline. You've heard from people who understand it way better than me that we have a 100-year opportunity. We can get fossil fuel subsidies out of our government. We can level the playing field, because you know what? These companies can't make it on a level playing field, and they know it. They know it, right? They're scared. As I always like to say, when you're taking flak, you're over the target, right? And they know that without these subsidies, they can't compete. They can't compete against the renewable economy, the clean, the just, the fair economy that we all need and want. They are scared. So let's keep them